He rescued her years ago, now she stands in his way with a blade. The colony of Greyfall had been quiet before the attack. It was a small human settlement on the edge of explored space, built on a dry world with weak gravity and wide red plains. Alex had been young then, not a commander, not a hero, just another soldier assigned to guard duty far from any important war. He had complained about the posting. Later, he would regret those complaints. The alien ships came without warning. They tore through the sky like falling stars, black and sharp, blocking out the sun. Alarms screamed across the colony. Buildings cracked open as energy fire struck the streets. Civilians ran in every direction. Alex and his unit tried to form lines, but the attack was too fast and too precise. The alien empire that attacked Greyfall was already feared across nearby systems. They did not raid for land. They raided for control and fear. They wanted examples. Greyfall became one. Alex moved through smoke and dust, helping people escape when he could. He dragged a wounded man behind a fallen transport. He lifted a child whose leg was bleeding and passed her to another soldier. Orders came through broken comms, confused and incomplete. Retreat. Hold. Fall back again. The chain of command collapsed within minutes. When the main defense line broke, Alex was cut off from his unit. He found himself alone near the eastern habitation ring, where fires burned through thin walls and oxygen leaked into the open air. Alien soldiers moved through the area, tall shapes in dark armor, their weapons glowing with cold light. Alex pressed himself into the shadow of a shattered building, breathing slowly, trying not to be seen. That was when he heard crying. It was faint, almost lost beneath the sound of explosions, but it was there. A small, broken sound of fear. Alex should have stayed hidden. He knew that. Every training instinct told him to wait, to survive, to regroup if possible. Instead, he moved toward the sound. The cry came from inside a collapsed structure, once a medical outpost. Part of the roof had fallen inward. Fire licked along one wall. Alex slipped inside through a narrow gap, weapon raised. He found her curled behind a broken console. She was not human. The alien child could not have been more than 8 or 9 years old by human measure. Her skin was pale blue, marked with darker lines along her arms and face. Her eyes were large and silver, wide with terror. One of her legs was bleeding badly, caught under a piece of fallen metal. Alex froze. The war briefings had been clear. The enemy showed no mercy. They used their young as tools and shields. They raised them to hate humans. Seeing one so small and helpless broke something inside him. The child looked up at him and screamed. Alex dropped his weapon at once. He slowly knelt, keeping his hands open and visible. Smoke burned his lungs, but he forced his voice to stay calm. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe. I won't hurt you." She did not understand the words, but she understood the tone. Her scream turned into shaking sobs. Alex glanced toward the entrance. Alien patrols were nearby. If they found him here with her, they would kill them both. If human forces found them, they might do the same. Fear ruled that battlefield. He made a choice. Alex moved closer and carefully lifted the metal from her leg. She cried out in pain, but he worked fast. He tore a strip from his own uniform and wrapped the wound tight. Her blood was darker than human blood, almost purple, warm against his hands. When he tried to lift her, she resisted at first. Then another explosion shook the building, and she clung to him without thinking. Alex carried her through fire and smoke, moving through side passages he barely remembered from old maps. Twice he had to hide as alien soldiers passed close enough that he could hear their breathing through armor. The child buried her face in his chest, shaking but silent. They reached the edge of the colony as evacuation ships lifted off into orbit. Alex knew he could not take her with the humans. Panic and hatred ruled those ships. She would not survive that fear. Beyond the colony lay the dry plains and broken rock. Alex set her down near a low ridge far from the fighting. He pulled a small emergency ration and water pack from his belt and placed it in her hands. He pointed away from the colony and then to the horizon. "Go," he said quietly. "Hide. Stay alive." The child stared at him, confusion and fear mixing in her eyes. She reached out and touched his arm, her fingers cold against his skin. Then she ran. Alex watched her disappear into the dust before turning back toward the burning colony. He did not know if she would live. He did not know if he would. But for the first time since the attack began, he felt that one thing had gone right. Greyfall fell that day. Human reports listed Alex Carter as missing in action for 3 weeks. In truth, he survived by moving through the ruins, avoiding patrols, helping small groups escape when he could. When he was finally extracted, the war had already shifted to new fronts. No one asked him about the alien child. Years passed. The war between humanity and the alien empire grew wider and colder. Systems burned. Fleets clashed in deep space. Alex rose through the ranks not because he loved war, but because he understood its cost. He avoided civilian targets. He argued with superiors when orders felt wrong. Soldiers under his command trusted him, even when they did not always understand him. He never spoke about Greyfall unless asked. When he did, he spoke of loss, not glory. Sometimes, late at night aboard quiet ships, Alex remembered silver eyes and small hands gripping his uniform. He told himself it was a single moment in a long war, nothing more. On another world far from human space, the alien child survived. She was found by a patrol from her own people 2 days after the attack. They treated her wounds and took her to a recovery enclave. When they asked how she escaped the humans, she did not have the words to explain. She only remembered fire, pain, and a human face that showed no hate. The Empire taught her that humans were monsters. The lessons were strict and repeated. Humans destroyed worlds. Humans killed children. Humans could not be trusted. She listened. She learned. She trained. But at night, she remembered a human who had carried her instead of killing her. That memory did not fit the lessons, so she buried it deep and sharpened her blade instead. Alex Carter did not know that choice would follow him across years and stars. He did not know that mercy, once given, never truly disappears. And he did not know that the child he saved would one day stand before him, alive, strong, and holding a blade years past, and the child from Greyfall was no longer a child. Her name was Lyra Venn. She learned her name again slowly after pain and fever faded. The recovery enclave was built beneath stone and metal, hidden from the sky. It smelled of minerals and cold air. Healers moved quietly, their voices calm but distant. They spoke to her as one speaks to a wounded animal, careful and watchful. Lyra healed faster than expected. The elders called it strength. The trainers would later call it purpose. When she could walk again, they began to ask questions. Where were you found? How did you escape? Did the humans touch you? Did they hurt you? Lyra answered with short sounds and gestures. Her memory of words was broken then. Images came more easily. Fire, falling walls, fear, and a human face close and calm, hands gentle but firm. When she tried to describe the human, the elders corrected her. Humans lie, they said. Humans pretend kindness to trap the weak. You survived because the patrol arrived. Nothing more. Lyra accepted this because she had no strength to argue. Because children learn what they are told when the world is still painful. As years passed, the Empire shaped her. The alien empire did not call itself cruel. It called itself necessary. Survival required strength. Strength required obedience. Obedience required belief. Lyra was placed in a training circle with others her age. They were taught movement before language, balance before emotion. Blades were placed in their hands early, light at first, then heavier, sharper. Mistakes were corrected with cold words, not anger. Lyra learned fast. Her instructors noticed her focus. When others grew tired, she continued. When others struck with anger, she struck with control. They praised this. Control was valued above all. At night, when the training halls were dark, Lyra sometimes dreamed of a burning sky and a human voice she could not understand. She woke with her hands shaking and forced herself to breathe slowly, the way she had been taught. She told no one about the dreams. As she grew older, lessons expanded beyond combat. She learned history as the Empire told it. Humans were a spreading threat. Their worlds were unstable, their emotions dangerous, their mercy false. Every war fought against them was defense, never aggression. Videos were shown. Human ships firing on alien stations. Human soldiers standing over fallen bodies. Images cut carefully without context. Lyra watched without expression. Inside, something remained unsettled. When she was 16 by Empire measure, Lyra was selected for advanced blade training. Only a few were chosen each cycle. It was considered an honor for the family, even for those without strong lineage. Lyra had no known family. This made her success even more valuable to the state. Her new instructor was a veteran warrior named Serac, scarred and quiet. He spoke little, but when he did, his words carried weight. Do not fight with hate, Serac told them. Hate is loud and careless. Fight with purpose. Purpose is silent. Lyra took those words into herself. Her blade work became precise. She learned to read opponents by their stance and breath. She learned when not to strike. Restraint was not weakness, it was dominance. Missions followed training. At first they were simulations, then controlled engagements. Finally, real operations against human outposts and supply lines. Lyra moved with her unit through dark corridors and open plains, her blade glowing softly at her side. She never struck civilians. When questioned, she said the situation did not require it. The report accepted this. Results mattered more than method. Her reputation grew. Among the troops, she was known as the Silent Edge. Commanders praised her calm. Younger fighters watched her closely and copied her movements. Some admired her, others feared her. The Empire rewarded success with distance. Lyra was moved from enclave to enclave, system to system. She saw more of the war than most ever would. She saw human colonies burning. She saw alien cities bombed into broken stone. She saw fear in many shapes. Each time she faced humans in battle, she felt a strange tension, like a memory pressing against the back of her thoughts. She pushed it down and focused on survival. Survival of her people. Survival of the Empire. That was her duty. During one operation on a captured station, Lyra encountered a group of human prisoners. They were injured, exhausted, hands bound. One of them was a man with dark hair and tired eyes. He looked at her without hatred, only resignation. For a moment, the past rose sharply. The memory of being carried through smoke, the warmth of unfamiliar arms. Lyra turned away and ordered the prisoners moved. Later, alone, she struck a wall hard enough to crack stone. Weakness, she told herself. This is weakness. Years passed like that, mission after mission. Promotion after promotion. Lyra became a symbol used by the Empire. Her image appeared in training halls. Her victories were spoken of in briefings. She was proof that the Empire's future was strong. Yet the Empire did not trust strength without control. As Lyra's influence grew, so did the watch placed upon her. Her communications were monitored, her movements tracked. Serac warned her quietly. "You are valuable now," he said. "Valuable things are owned." Lyra understood. The turning point came during an assault on a human research facility orbiting a gas giant. Intelligence claimed it housed weapons capable of wiping out entire fleets. The order was clear: destroy everything. Leave no survivors. Lyra led the breach team. Inside the station, resistance was light, too light. Scientists ran, alarms screamed. Systems failed as alien charges tore through corridors. Lyra entered a central lab and froze. The room was filled with containment units. Inside them were alien civilians, injured, experimented on, monitored by machines. Some were children. Human soldiers lay dead nearby, killed during the initial breach. The data screens showed logs, fear, desperation, failure. This was not a weapon facility, it was a prison. Lyra felt something crack inside her. Command demanded confirmation of destruction. The charge timer counted down. 30 seconds, she could walk away. No one would question it. The Empire would call it justice. Instead, Lyra ordered her team to evacuate the lab. Her second hesitated. "This violates command," he said. Lyra looked at him. Her voice was calm. "Then record it as a systems failure," she said. The charges were disarmed. The prisoners were freed and guided to escape pods. When command questioned the delay, Lyra provided a clean report, carefully worded, impossible to challenge without admitting their own lies. The Empire accepted it, but trust weakened. After that day, Lyra noticed changes. Missions became tests. Orders grew harsher. Observers followed her even in training. Serac was reassigned. One night, Lyra stood alone on a station balcony, watching a distant star burn white against the dark. She finally allowed the memory to rise fully. The human who saved her had not asked for loyalty. He had not spoken threats. He had not demanded belief. He had simply helped. That memory did not match the Empire's stories. For the first time, Lyra asked herself a question she had avoided for years. What if the enemy was not what she had been taught? What if mercy was not weakness? Far away, on the bridge of a human warship, Alex Carter studied reports of rising alien resistance led by a blade commander known for restraint and precision. The name meant nothing to him, yet something about the patterns felt familiar. Two paths, shaped by fire and choice, moved slowly toward the same point in space. Neither knew how close they already were. The battle station hung in orbit above the shattered planet like a jagged tooth. Human ships moved into formation, engines glowing softly against the blackness of space. Alien patrols circled the station, their ships sharp and angular, like predators waiting for prey. Alex Carter's fleet was not large, but it was disciplined. Every captain under his command knew his style, careful, precise, and merciful whenever possible. That approach had won them victories that brute force alone could not. Alex stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the station. His eyes traced the twisted metal and shattered docking bays. Reports came in from scouts. Alien forces were heavier than expected, and intelligence suggested the presence of an elite blade commander moving through the corridors inside. The reports did not name her. Humans rarely knew the names of their enemies. They only knew skill and reputation. "Any sign of prisoners or civilians, Captain?" asked Lieutenant Ryan, a young officer with sharp brown hair and a careful tone. Alex shook his head. "Not yet, but stay alert. Intelligence says there could be captives in the central hub. Our priority is to minimize deaths on both sides." Ryan nodded but did not fully understand. He had never seen Alex hesitate in a fight. Inside the station, Lyra Venn moved like a shadow. Her blade glowed faintly along the dark corridors, but she used it only when necessary. She did not strike for the thrill of killing. She struck to protect, to control, to survive. That combination made her legendary among both her own troops and the humans who feared her. Lyra's team cleared hallways methodically. Sensors beeped quietly. Automated defense systems hummed, but she bypassed them with calm precision. Every step was measured, every decision calculated. Then she saw them. Human troops were advancing through the eastern wing. They were careful, disciplined, the same as she had learned to expect from human soldiers. She paused in the shadows, watching their formation. At the front was a tall man with dark hair, commanding without anger, but with authority that made others trust him instantly. His movements were fluid but cautious. Alex Carter. Her heart skipped, though she forced herself not to show it. She remembered him clearly. The human who had carried her years ago when fire burned the colony of Greyfall. The memory had been buried beneath years of training, anger, and survival. Now it resurfaced. She blocked the doorway ahead, her blade in hand, and waited. Alex and his squad approached carefully, scanning for threats. Their formation slowed as they entered the corridor where Lyra stood. The two of them froze. Recognition was not immediate, her armor hid her face and the years had changed them both. But Alex's eyes caught hers. Silver, unmistakable. He did not raise his weapon. Not even a hand moved. Lyra's blade glowed brighter in the dim corridor. She felt every instinct in her body urging her to strike, to obey the Empire's training, to eliminate the human in front of her without hesitation. But another instinct, one she had buried, stopped her. "Stop," Alex said softly. "It's me." Lyra hesitated. Her grip tightened on the hilt, but she could not strike. The memories surged. Smoke, fire, a small hand clutching his uniform, fear and trust mixed together in one fleeting moment. The corridor was silent except for the hum of the station. Behind Alex, human troops waited tense, unsure of what to do. Alien soldiers in the distance watched Lyra, curious about her hesitation. "Why?" she whispered, though the word was almost lost to the hum of the lights. "Lyra," Alex said, using the name she had not heard in years. "You're alive. I never forgot you. I never wanted you to get hurt." The sound of her name from his lips brought tears she did not allow herself to shed. Anger and loyalty clashed inside her. The Empire had told her humans were killers, destroyers of worlds. Yet here he was, calm, unarmed, speaking words that did not match the lessons she had learned. Her squad shifted behind her. Some glanced nervously, unsure whether she would strike or retreat. Lyra took a slow step back, her blade still ready but lowered slightly. "Why are you here?" she demanded. Her voice was stronger now, commanding, as if to convince herself she belonged in the Empire in the war. "We came to stop the fighting," Alex said simply. "We don't have to kill each other if we don't have to. You know that." The words struck her like a physical blow. She remembered the moments he had shown her mercy, the small hand extended when all else was fire and blood. For the first time she realized that humans could fight and still hold compassion. Not weakness, not trickery, but choice. Behind Alex, Lieutenant Ryan whispered to a comrade, "Who is she?" "Elite," another whispered. "They call her the Silent Edge." Lyra's mind raced. Her orders, her empire, her duty, all screamed at her to strike, to kill the human in front of her. Yet she could not. She could not raise the blade against the man who had carried her to life. The tension in the corridor was thick. Human soldiers shifted, fingers on triggers, waiting for the command that never came. Alien observers held their breath, unsure what would happen next. The universe itself seemed to pause. Then Alex took a slow step forward, deliberately, showing no aggression. "Lyra," he said again, "you don't have to do this. I don't want to fight you." She looked down at the glowing blade in her hands. The weight felt heavier than ever. All her training had taught her to obey orders, to follow commands, to kill when commanded. And yet the memory of a human face, the warmth of arms that saved her from fire, broke every rule she had ever learned. She lowered the blade just slightly. One small movement, almost imperceptible, it was enough. The silence stretched. Human soldiers watched, uncertain. Alien soldiers watched, confused. And in that brief pause, Lyra felt something she had not felt in years, doubt. "You remember," she whispered, more to herself than to him. "I do," Alex said, "and I've always hoped you would remember me. Hoped you would know humans can be different. Not all of us are killers." Her squad shifted again, uneasy. Lyra's hesitation was dangerous, not just for her but for them all. If she failed to act decisively, the Empire could punish her, could claim she betrayed them. Yet she could not strike. "Stand aside," she said finally, her voice steady but trembling. "I will not fight you." Alex's squad relaxed, but they remained alert. The tension in the corridor eased slightly, though only for a moment. Every human soldier knew the danger was not over. Alien reinforcements could arrive at any time, and Lyra's own instincts told her that showing mercy could be fatal if the wrong observers were near. The moment stretched, a fragile pause between two sides trained for war. Memories of fire and smoke, of a young child carried to safety, hung between them. The corridor became a space of quiet choice, where the past collided with the present, and a single decision could change everything. Lyra's silver eyes never left Alex's. She studied the face of the man who had saved her, the calm authority in his stance, the absence of threat. She realized that some part of him had always been human, despite everything she had been taught. Alex spoke again, softly. "We can end this without blood. You don't have to follow the Empire blindly. You can choose." The words stirred something deep inside her. The training, the loyalty, the years of orders, everything pressed on her like a weight. But the memory of mercy, of being carried through fire, reminded her of something else. Choice. For a long moment she did not move. The human soldiers waited, the alien soldiers watched, and the hum of the station filled the corridor. Then she stepped aside. The blade lowered fully. The decision was made, at least for now. She would not strike. Alex's eyes softened. He took a small step closer, keeping his hands visible. "Thank you," he said quietly. Lyra nodded once, silent. Inside, a storm of emotions churned. Anger at herself for hesitation, fear of the Empire's reaction, and a long-suppressed relief that the human she remembered was alive and unchanged in the ways that mattered. Outside the corridor, the first sounds of engagement from other parts of the station began. Alarms blared, troops moved. But inside that small space, time slowed. A human and an alien stood face to face, linked by a memory older than the war itself, each aware that the choice they made in that corridor could ripple across worlds. Alex finally motioned for his squad to move forward carefully. Lyra watched, blade still ready in case of other threats. The corridor was no longer just a place of battle. It had become a place of recognition, of the collision of past and present, of mercy and war. As they moved together, human soldiers and elite alien fighter passing side by side without conflict, Lyra felt the first stirrings of something she had not expected. Hope. Hope that perhaps the galaxy was not as simple as the Empire had taught her. Hope that humans could be more than destroyers. And somewhere deep in her memory, a small child who had once been carried through fire smiled faintly. Unseen but never forgotten, the central hub of the station was a maze of metal and wires, broken machinery and flickering lights. Human soldiers moved carefully, clearing corridors and scanning rooms. Alien defenders were tense, confused by the sudden hesitation of one of their best commanders. Lyra Venn led her team silently, her blade still at her side, but her mind was racing faster than ever. She remembered Greyfall, remembered fire, remembered the human who had carried her through it. Those memories were alive now, pushing against years of orders, training, and loyalty. She had a choice, and that choice felt heavier than any blade she had ever lifted. Alex Carter moved alongside his squad, every step deliberate. He noticed the subtle movements of Lyra's team. They were skilled, trained, precise, but none attacked. Something had shifted. He felt it in his gut. The elite blade commander was making a choice, and he hoped he could guide her to the right one. The first engagement came suddenly. A group of alien soldiers, unaware of the tension, moved into the corridor from the north. A brief flash of light from their weapons and chaos erupted. Human soldiers returned fire. Explosions shook the walls. Dust and sparks filled the air. Lyra's instincts kicked in. She moved fluidly, her blade cutting the air with controlled strikes. She disabled opponents without killing, hitting pressure points, disabling weapons, and knocking enemies back. Her team followed her lead, striking with precision. Alex and his squad advanced, observing her control. He noticed the hesitation in her movements. Her strikes were deliberate, but she avoided lethal blows. It confirmed what he suspected. She remembered. She remembered mercy. After the skirmish, the corridor was silent except for the hiss of damaged circuits and the breathing of soldiers. Alex approached Lyra carefully. He raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "You don't have to do this," he said. "You can stop fighting." Lyra looked at him, silver eyes hard and calm. "My orders," she whispered. The words sounded weak even to her. Years of discipline clashed with a memory older than all her training. The Empire had told her humans were enemies, killers, destroyers. The memory of one human who had carried her safely through fire refused to be silenced. Alex stepped closer. I know your orders, but this is not about orders. This is about life. Your life, theirs, mine." Lyra's hand tightened around her blade. Her pulse raced. She thought of the Empire's punishments for hesitation, for failure. She thought of the whispers from observers who followed her, noting every movement. Obedience had kept her alive all these years. Defiance could kill her instantly. Yet she could not strike. She could not harm the man in front of her, the human who had once carried her without question, without hate. "I saved you once," Alex said quietly. "I never expected anything in return, but I never forgot. I hoped even through all this, you could see that not all humans are what the Empire says." Lyra's mind flashed with memories. She was 8 years old again, smoke in her lungs, the human's arms steady as fire roared around them. The fear, the trust, the quiet certainty that he would not let her die, it all came back, sharper than any blade she had ever held. Her team shifted behind her, sensing her conflict. One of her closest lieutenants, a young alien named Saren, stepped forward. "What do we do?" he whispered. Lyra turned, eyes still on Alex. "We survive," she said, "without killing when it is not necessary." Saren nodded, though unease rippled through the group. Hesitation in the middle of a battlefield could be fatal. Yet they trusted her because they had always seen her succeed, no matter the odds. Suddenly, a transmission came through her comms. It was the Empire. The voice was cold, sharp, demanding obedience. "Strike the humans. Eliminate Commander Carter. Failure will be punished." Lyra froze. The weight of duty pressed on her chest like a heavy stone. She had a choice: obey and kill the human who once saved her, or defy the Empire and risk everything she had trained for, everything she had built herself to become. She looked at Alex again. He did not flinch. He did not threaten. He only watched, calm, waiting, giving her a chance to choose. Her team watched her, waiting for direction. Human soldiers waited, weapons ready but hesitant. The station itself seemed to hold its breath. Lyra took a deep breath. She had trained for years to follow orders without question. She had been taught that mercy was weakness. She had been told humans were monsters. But she remembered fire. She remembered arms that had carried her when all else burned. She remembered trust given without expectation, kindness without demand. "Stand down," she said finally, her voice strong but steady. "We will not attack. Leave them alone." Her team hesitated. A moment of silence stretched, long and dangerous. Then one by one they lowered their weapons, following her lead. The humans remained cautious but relaxed slightly. The Empire's transmission repeated: threat, warning, command. Lyra ignored it. She would face consequences later if she survived. Alex approached slowly. "You made the right choice," he said softly. "Sometimes survival means more than victory." Lyra looked at him, confusion and relief mixed together. "It will not be easy," she said. "The Empire, they will not forgive hesitation." Alex shook his head. "They don't understand what mercy is. We do." Outside the central hub, the battle continued. Explosions rocked the station. Alien ships fired on human vessels. The clash of fleets created flashes of light that reflected off the metal walls. Inside, though, a fragile calm held. In this corridor, mercy and choice had taken the place of orders and obedience. Lyra felt something new stirring inside her. For years, she had trained to follow, to obey, to kill without hesitation. Now she realized that strength could exist without hate, without cruelty. Control did not require destruction. Dominance did not require blood. "Why are you here?" she asked finally, her silver eyes searching his face. "Because I could not ignore what mattered," Alex replied. "Because someone once needed me." And because someone else once taught me that mercy is more powerful than hate. The words hit her deeply. She realized that the Empire had shaped her, yes, but the choice to be more, to be different, to be human in spirit even as an alien warrior, belonged to her alone. Her team watched her closely, and in their eyes she saw trust. The soldiers behind her had lived under fear and obedience. Now they followed a commander who chose life, who chose mercy, who defied expectation. "We move carefully," she said finally. "We do not fight unless necessary. Follow me." Human soldiers flinched slightly at her command, but Alex nodded. He understood instinctively. The elite blade commander was still the same warrior, just guided by a new principle, the choice to protect rather than destroy. As they moved through the station, alien and human soldiers side by side, the first rays of understanding began to grow between them. The Empire would not forgive easily. Consequences awaited. But in that moment, the corridor became a place of possibility, a small pocket where mercy and courage had created a fragile peace. Lyra's mind flashed again to Greyfall, to fire and smoke, to the arms that carried her. She realized that act of mercy had not been forgotten. It had shaped her, even through all the years of training, anger, and war. Alex studied her, noting her skill, her calm, her hesitation, and the clear signs that she remembered him. He had not expected to find her alive, much less changed by memory. But he knew one thing. The galaxy would remember this moment. Human and alien, soldier and warrior, mercy and choice, all converging in a single corridor. It was not the end of the war, not yet. But it was proof that even in darkness, compassion could survive. Lyra led her team toward the command center, careful to avoid unnecessary fights. Human soldiers followed, trusting her guidance despite their training to see her as an enemy. Every step forward was a decision to defy the Empire, to embrace a principle she had nearly forgotten. That life, even the life of the enemy, was worth protecting. And deep inside, a memory from years ago reminded her of what had started it all. Fire, smoke, and a human who had carried her to safety. That memory, long buried, was alive now, guiding her choices, shaping her courage, and defining the path she had chosen. The battle outside raged, but inside, the war of choice and loyalty had already been decided. Lyra had chosen, and that choice would echo far beyond the station walls, far beyond the fleets, far beyond the stars themselves. The corridors of the station were quiet now, but the hum of battle still echoed in the distance. Explosions rocked parts of the hull far from the central hub, but inside, human and alien soldiers moved carefully, side by side, led by Lyra Venn. Her blade no longer glowed with readiness to strike. It was a symbol of control, skill, and restraint. Alex Carter walked nearby, watching her closely. Every step forward was cautious. The station was unstable, wiring sparking, walls cracked, and doors hanging from their hinges. The humans helped alien civilians escape, guiding them toward evacuation pods, while Lyra's team kept a careful perimeter. The strange alliance held, fragile but firm. "We have to reach the command core," Lyra said. Her voice was steady, but inside she felt tension like a coiled spring. "It is the only place that can end this fight quickly," Alex nodded. "We follow your lead." He trusted her instinct completely. He did not fear her skill. He had seen mercy in action, and he knew strength without cruelty was stronger than fear. The path to the command core was not easy. Alien reinforcements arrived from the upper decks, moving with disciplined precision. Automated defenses still activated unexpectedly, sending pulses of energy across the corridors. The human soldiers hesitated at each obstacle, but Lyra moved with quiet authority, disarming traps, guiding them past hazards, striking only when necessary to disable a threat without killing. One alien unit confronted them, led by a commander unfamiliar with Lyra. He raised his weapon and shouted orders in a language human ears could not fully comprehend. His men aimed at Alex and the human squad. Lyra stepped forward. Her silver eyes met his. "Stand down," she commanded. Her voice was calm, firm, and impossible to ignore. Her presence carried authority. Her team flanked her, showing readiness without aggression. The alien commander hesitated. Loyalty to the Empire had been drilled into him, but the calm control in Lyra's stance made him question what he had been told. The pause lasted only seconds, but it was enough. The commander lowered his weapon slightly, signaling his unit to hold. Lyra nodded once, subtle but clear. The tension eased. A fragile peace held for that moment, fragile but alive. Alex watched the interaction closely. He realized the power of what Lyra had become. She was not just a fighter, she was a leader. She had the ability to change the battlefield with mercy instead of violence. "This is it," she said quietly. "Command Core is just ahead. After this, we can end the station's threat and evacuate everyone safely." The final corridor was narrow, metal walls warped by explosions. Lights flickered as sparks rained down from damaged panels. Human and alien soldiers moved together, cautiously but efficiently. Lyra led the way, blade held ready, not for attack, but for protection. She felt the weight of her decisions pressing on her shoulders. The Empire would punish her if they knew, but she did not regret her choice. Mercy had guided her this far, and she would not abandon it now. They reached the command core. The room was massive, filled with glowing consoles and screens showing the station's systems. Alarms blared, warning of structural instability. The main console displayed the station's power grid and weapon systems. All automated defenses were still active, but none had fired since Lyra's intervention. "I'll handle the override," Alex said. He moved to the console, fingers flying across controls. Lyra stayed close, watching every angle. Her instincts remained sharp, ready to protect the humans or civilians if needed. The override process took tense minutes. Alarms continued to blare, sparks fell, and the station trembled. Alien and human soldiers alike waited silently, trusting Lyra to guide them through the chaos. She gave quiet, clear instructions, moving with calm authority. Finally, the console accepted the override. Automated weapons powered down. Energy fields collapsed safely. The station's systems were neutralized without destruction. Evacuation pods became accessible, allowing civilians to escape safely. Human soldiers helped alien civilians into the pods. Lyra's team assisted as well. No lives were lost in the process, a remarkable achievement considering the danger. Alex watched with quiet satisfaction, knowing the station's threat had ended without unnecessary bloodshed. Then came the hardest part. The Empire would demand accountability. Lyra knew they would not forgive her defiance. Reports of her actions would spread, her mercy seen as betrayal by some, her skill as a weapon by others. She had to face the consequences. Alex stepped beside her. "You did the right thing," he said softly. "You showed them that mercy is strength, that humans and aliens can choose life over destruction." Lyra nodded, looking at him. "They will not see it that way," she said. "The Empire, they will call me a traitor." Alex shook his head. "Then we will make sure they see it differently. This story will spread. Your choice, your mercy, your leadership, it will be known. The galaxy will remember." Lyra allowed herself a small smile. For the first time in years, the weight on her shoulders felt lighter. She had made the choice that defined her, not the Empire. She had chosen life, protection, and truth. Outside the station, the fleets were still in motion. Alien ships paused, confused by the sudden shift. Humans took advantage of the confusion to establish a secure perimeter, ensuring that evacuees could escape safely. The galaxy was watching, and the unexpected mercy shown by a single elite blade commander changed perceptions instantly. Reports of the event spread quickly. Across systems, both human and alien leaders were stunned. An elite alien commander had defied her orders, saved humans, and allowed lives to be spared. The act was unprecedented. Fleets hesitated before engagement, unsure of the morality and choices at play. Lyra's mercy became a lesson in the power of choice over blind obedience. In the following days, human diplomats contacted alien representatives. Negotiations began in sectors previously locked in war. The story of the corridor, the station, and the human who had once saved a young alien girl became legend. It showed that even in a galaxy full of war, compassion and courage could change the outcome. Alex Carter returned to his fleet, watching from the bridge as the station's evacuation completed successfully. He reflected on the path that had led him here, the decision to save a child, the years of conflict, and now the proof that mercy could create strength. Humanity's reputation shifted subtly but surely. They were no longer only seen as fighters, they were seen as protectors, capable of choices that could alter the course of history. Lyra stood beside him, silver eyes scanning the horizon. She thought of her past, the Empire, and the training that had made her an elite warrior. And yet, she realized that all of that could not compare to the strength of choice. The decision to protect, to spare, to guide rather than destroy had defined her more than any blade ever could. For the first time in her life, she felt a sense of peace. She had honored the human who once saved her. She had chosen life over orders, truth over fear. And in doing so, she had changed the galaxy. Human and alien forces began evacuating the remaining civilians from nearby systems, inspired by the example set in the station. News channels, communications networks, and intelligence reports carried the story across sectors. Humanity's fleet gained a new reputation. They were no longer seen as simple warriors. They were seen as a force capable of mercy, wisdom, and leadership. Lyra's actions were studied and discussed in alien training halls. Some commanders condemned her, some admired her. Many wondered if humanity had a power beyond technology, beyond weapons, the power to inspire, to show mercy, to create trust where there was fear. Alex watched Lyra quietly, noting the calm control in her movements. She had become more than a soldier. She had become proof of a principle, that choice, morality, and courage could alter the path of war. He knew that she would face challenges from her empire, but he also knew that her actions had changed more than one life, hers, his, and countless others. As the last evacuation pods launched into orbit, Alex and Lyra stood together, watching the stars beyond the station. The galaxy seemed vast, indifferent, and dangerous. Yet in that moment, hope existed, mercy existed, humanity's legacy existed. The memory of Greyfall, fire, and smoke remained, but it no longer brought fear. It brought understanding. It had begun with a single act of saving a child. And now, years later, that act had blossomed into a choice that shaped the course of worlds. Human and alien lives were saved. Warships paused. Fleets reconsidered engagements. Systems whispered the story across light years. The human who had once carried a small alien girl through fire, and the alien warrior who remembered that mercy, had created a new chapter for the galaxy. Lyra lowered her blade finally, completely. She was still a warrior, still skilled beyond most, but now she was also a symbol, proof that compassion could exist in the heart of the battlefield, that choice could exist in the heart of obedience. Alex nodded to her, quietly proud. "You did it," he said. "You proved that life can be stronger than orders, that mercy can be stronger than fear." Lyra smiled faintly, the first genuine smile she had allowed herself in years. She had survived, she had chosen wisely, and she had changed everything. In the galaxy, across star systems and fleets, the story spread. Humanity's reputation shifted, not just as fighters, but as a species capable of mercy, of reason, of heroism beyond death. And somewhere deep in her heart, Lyra remembered a child saved, a human who had once carried her, and the strength that could be found in kindness. The battle was over, but the legacy had just begun. The human who rescued a child, and the alien who remembered mercy, became symbols of a truth the galaxy could not ignore. Compassion, courage, and choice could change everything, even in a universe built for war. And as ships departed the station, lights fading into the dark void, Alex and Lyra stood together, two lives intertwined by fate, memory, and the power of a single act of mercy, ready to face whatever the future would bring. The galaxy would remember. Humanity would remember. And a warrior who once stood in the way of orders would carry that lesson forward forever.